else comes in, oh, thank you, Marshall. If anyone else comes in after we've gotten started, we can always add them to the roll call list.
Madam Chair, if you would just give me 1 second, I believe there
Sure.
was an Ann in the waiting room, and I'm wondering if it's Ann Phillips. So I just
Oh,
brought her over, and let's see if this is her. Maybe. Hey, Ann, is that you?
Yes, it is. I'm getting ready to change that.
Okay, awesome. Good seeing you. Thank you.
Okay, it's just Ann. Okay.
for some reason, mine showed up the same way today. It was just Allison at first, so I added my full name in case you guys may forget who I am. Well, with that, now that we've got Ann in the house with us, let's go ahead and get this show on the road. And again, if anyone joins us late, if you will just keep us informed, Mr. Freeman, and that way we can add them to the listing. With that, welcome to everybody. Thank you, committee members, for taking the time out of your evening to join us, and also to the presenters joining us this evening. We really appreciate all of your efforts and your engagement on this. And also a big thank you to all of the attendees in the audience, those who have joined just to listen in. So thank you for that. And without further ado, I will toss to Madam Co-Chair so that we can take our roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll start with Allison Clark.
Present.
Nicole Morado. Nicole. Okay, Amy Taylor.
See her.
Amy. We seeing Amy? No. Patricia.
Present.
LaShawn Atwaters.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay, thank you. Jerry Basin.
Present.
Ann Phillips.
Present.
Shirley Nichols.
Present.
Ophelia Lee.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Jacqueline Rainey.
Present.
Deputy Chief Darren Sherburne.
Present.
Thank you. Sharon Williams, present. Tori Tucker. Lily Ponitz.
Present.
Thank you. First Deputy Chief James McClaremore. Okay. Madam Chair, we do have a quorum. Oh, I'm
Okay,
sorry,
I
Dustin
think-
Hills. I forgot Dustin Hillis. Hollis Turner. Is there anybody here that I didn't call?
Sharon, you didn't call my name, Sean Billingsley.
Oh, Sean, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, Sean.
Madam Co-Chair, I do think if you would, for the record, we do need to, I think, correct one thing on that list, because there is also a congratulations that is in order. Deputy Chief Shearbaum is now Assistant Chief of Police Shearbaum. And so congratulations to him.
Congratulations.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes.
Let me correct that title.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you, Sharon. And as you mentioned, we do have quorum this evening. Before we move forward into adopting the agenda, I want to make a quick motion to move the site plan, which I believe is item 6 on the agenda this evening. I would like to, if we can, move the site plan up to item 4 on the agenda, so that as soon as we finish the governance piece, we can go directly into the site plan in the interest of time for the presenters this evening. Can I get a second?
A second. Patricia Call.
Thank you, Pat. And with that, I will open the floor if there are any objections. And I will also accept those objections to the agenda as a whole. Otherwise, we will move forward with the agenda as being approved with that one adjustment. All right, agenda has been adopted. Madam Co-Chair, would you like to move forward with the approval of minutes?
Yes, first let me ask, are there any changes or edits to the minutes that were sent out in advance? Seeing none, move to accept the minutes.
I will second. Allison.
Okay. If there are no objections, it will be approved unanimously.
So moved. All right. With that, our next piece of governance is an amendment to the bylaws that was sent out to each of you ahead of the meeting. I am making a motion to amend the bylaws. The governance and composition section, subsection B, composition of members, to include Norwood Manor as the City of Atlanta stakeholder. If you'll notice, the bylaws do not list Norwood Manor, which is the community that Ms. Hollis Turner represents. And so if I can get a second on the motion to add Norwood Manor.
I second the motion. Patricia Culp.
Is there any objection to doing so? Okay, ladies and gents, we can move forward with Norwood Manor officially added per the bylaws and consistent with the legislation. Thank you all for your cooperation in getting that piece taken care of very quickly. With that, let us move into the site plan updates. We have this evening, I know Mr. Freeman, you, Assistant Chief Sherbaum, and Bob Hughes presenting this evening.
Yes, thank you
Turn the
very
floor
much.
over to you.
Sure. So just really quickly, just a quick update. So planning and permitting for the construction of the training center is proceeding as expected. The formal groundbreaking remains on schedule for later on this summer. As soon as we have a date and the information shared with the committee, then we will share that again in the time to come. Reeves Young, which is the contractor that was involved in our land surveys and soil sampling and site cleanup, has concluded their work at the site. And I would just like to thank them for, again, that portion of the project in which they have facilitated thus far. They have obviously moved on to what's next for them. And so APF will begin at this point to complete our bid process plan for our next set of contractors in the coming weeks. And the process to select these contractors to construct that phase of the training center will also be announced publicly shortly. And so I wanted to also just make sure that you guys were up to date on kind of where we are with that. I'd like to then turn it over to Chief Sherbaum to give a quick update regarding site security. And then I think we'll go to Bob Hughes to give an update regarding some of these changes and some of the edits in the site plan.
Thank you, Marshall, and good evening, everyone. I always want to start by saying on behalf of Chief Bryant and the women and men of the police department, just thank you to the stakeholders group for your investment in the preparedness of our emergency services in the city of Atlanta. As we look at the evolution of the site plan and we see the community's input crafting the design and the structure, it's encouraging that we will be working in an area where we're developing strong bonds with the community, and we will look forward to expanding those and building upon those as the design is creating a good environment for us to do in. I do want to speak to site security. We are working collaboratively with DeKalb County to address any criminal acts that may be occurring on site or in the immediate area to target this location. And also to update you on an action taken by Chief Bryant within the last week. There has been some acts not occurring at this location, but targeting individuals that may be associated with the project that have occurred outside of DeKalb County and Fulton County. And as a result, Chief Bryant has requested the assistance of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to assign investigators to our collaborative security group, as well as assistance from the Federal Bureau of Investigation as well. Those have been provided, and we look forward to working with those agencies to ensure this is a safe project that is occurring here and addressing any criminal acts that may be occurring on site to try to stop the project from proceeding. We do also want to thank the community for their support as well. for those that have reported suspicious activity occurring in the area and criminal activity occurring. Those calls are important to our response plan. We will continue to work very closely with any neighborhood watch group that is in the area. We continue to use technology to inform our presence in the area to ensure that there is no criminal activity occurring on the side or criminal activity occurring that would be of any detriment to of the neighborhoods. We're always available. Everyone has my contact information. If there's any matter that we can assist with, any community concerns outside of this group, please reach out to me. We'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. And unless there's any specific questions, Marshall, that'd be my report out.
Thank you, Chief. I think let's, Madam Chair, if it's okay, let's go to Bob Hughes, and then maybe we take questions at the end.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, first and foremost, I want to say personal congratulations to Assistant Police Chief Shearbaum. And Assistant Police Chief Shearbaum, it's been a pleasure to get to know you in this process and work with you. And it's because of people like you that we know our city is going to be a better place to have our families and live. And we thank you for everything that you do to do that. In terms of the site plan, they're really minimal modifications. Down where you see letter H and S, there's a stormwater pond down there that needed to be a little bit larger to be able to accommodate holding all the stormwater we need to in that area. And it caused us to shift the location of H, that entrance, just a little bit. So if you have your magnifying glass out and you're looking for differences from one to the next, that is really the substantive change in the plan here. The other thing that we do continue to work very closely on is our entry drive coming in from Constitution Avenue. We're really trying to thread a needle between stream buffers, floodplains, and you'll notice from earlier on, we had 2 crossings. We've gotten that down to 1 crossing, which is better for the environment. And we're working very hard to work through some details there for how that's actually going to work down in that area, but it all is moving forward. So no real change there, but I just wanted to point that out. And that's really it. The other thing that I wanted to bring up tonight, and it really dovetails a little bit on the comments of the Assistant Police Chief. When we began this project, looking at the idea of this many years ago, one of the ideas we really said was, wouldn't it be wonderful to symbolically create this notion of police and community living together in a similar environment? You know, the trails from one and the trails from the other, the park, all of that working together. And it's not that we've begun to change from that at all. We haven't, and I'm here to tell you that. But these issues of safety and concern keep rearing their heads, if you would. And so, you know, there's been some conversation, and I'll just leave it at that, is to say, is there going to need to be some fence around all of this campus? And I just want to share with you all that would really be antithetical to how we began this process. And I would hope, really sincerely hope, that as we as a collective group to continue work through this, that we work together to find a way and ensure a way that original concept, it's so important to begin to show that this isn't about training people over in a corner somewhere to go do something. This is about community for all of us. And if that changes and we have to start looking at a fence, we'll be the first ones to come to you and tell you that. We're not doing it now. Again, I state that, but I just wanted to share with you guys, it's our, there's several of us on this that will go down screaming if we have to go that way. So just wanted to share that with you, well, and glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Hughes. Also to you, Assistant Chief Shearbaum, as well as you, Mr. Freeman, for your presentations there. I will open the floor for any questions that committee members may have. If you would, please just announce yourself and remember to take the floor only once before others have an opportunity to take the floor. No questions this evening?
This is Lily. I have one question. I was just looking
Sure.
at the report and saw we had agreed to there being 100-foot tree line buffer basically around the whole site. And I'm wondering about some of these areas where there is no tree buffer, like to the right of I and like below O. Is that going to be corrected?
Hang on, I have to find I know, Lily.
Yeah.
Okay, down at the bottom. Yeah, I think that, yeah, we can replant that where there are no trees now. I'm not sure the trees down there now, so I'm not. And I think, were we talking that around the whole site or just along Key Road, that 100-foot? Might help me.
I thought the 100-foot buffer was originally along Key Road, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Freeman.
That was correct. So I do
Yeah,
think maybe we need
I
to.
thought so too. I think we're pulled back that far and it's, you know, but down along Constitution, but I think that was really adjoining the neighborhoods along Key Road.
Thank you for that, Ms. Ponitz. And it may, when we get into the portion discussing the committee update, if we need to specify more so that people understand where exactly that buffer is, we can do that. Are there any additional questions? It looks like you guys are off the hook tonight.
Right, and I want to thank the committee for adjusting the schedule. It was because of my conflict that I requested that if possible to move this up, and thank you for accommodating that. And as I check off to go catch up with my wife, she thanks you also.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving your time this evening for us.
I'll take care.
Well, and a quick note to you all, because I failed to make mention of this at the start of the call, and I just want to, you know, as we move through this agenda fairly quickly here, I just want to make sure that it's mentioned that as we move forward with these meetings, you'll notice that some of the agendas are not as robust or perhaps lighter than others. And this is something that is to be expected as the work continues to happen. So, you know, unfortunately, we're not in a position to change the schedule of the frequency of meetings because the legislation requires that we have a monthly meeting. And so there will be times where we have lighter agendas. So we'll continue to do our best to streamline the agenda and not waste any of your time. But I just wanted to throw that out there as we run into some meetings that may be shorter than others. And then at times, of course, we will have some longer meetings. So just keep that in mind, and I'll try to ahead of time let you know what we're looking at with respect to the meetings. With that, let's go ahead and jump into the committee report. I will keep this portion short and sweet for you all. You all received a copy of the committee update that is to go out. This is something that will be shared with our communities, with the broader DeKalb community and Atlanta community, so that people can have an understanding of what this committee has worked on to date. So I'm hoping that you all have had an opportunity to review it. I know, Lily, you raised a point a few moments ago relative to the tree buffer. If you all would like to see the language on that portion tightened up, we can certainly do that. As of now, it says that relative to the public appearance, there has been an addition of a 100-foot minimum tree buffer around the facility. If you would like to see that tightened up, let me know and we can make sure that that happens. Also, at the end of the committee report, and I will actually, if I can, share screen here. Give me just a second to put this up for you. Okay, I hope you guys can see my screen here. At the very end of the report, you will see the link to keep in touch. As this goes out to your communities, please, please, please share this information to as many people as possible so that they can click on this subscribe link here. Once members of the community have subscribed, they will receive our updates as they go out, have an opportunity to participate in the surveys and focus groups that this committee puts together. And so for those of you listening in, you can simply go to the atltrainingcenter.com website, click on the subscribe link on the top right-hand side of the page. There is a MailChimp connectivity piece there. Type in your information and we will have you added to the email list and you will be able to keep in touch with us that way. And so just wanted to point that out to you real quick, very simple stuff. With that, I will open the floor to any questions or comments relative to the committee update. Again, please announce yourself before you speak. I see that Ms. Williams, Madam Co-Chair, has her hand raised. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to, if you'd like the committee to comment on the draft, do you have a time frame for when you would like comments?
Absolutely. If anyone would like to address any portion of it at the meeting tonight, that would be fine. Also, what I would ask, if you do not address it tonight, please do so by Thursday, May 5th.
Okay.
You can send an email and that way this draft can make its way out public as soon as possible. Are there any questions from committee? All right, easy peasy. Let's move forward to our due diligence update. Mr. Alan Williams.
Good afternoon. Bree, are you going to show the agenda, see what I'm up first with? I'm having to work my phone on this one. Okay, thank you, Bree. Good afternoon. We'll give you an update on the Cultural Resource Assessment Survey. Thanks to the committee, we've received the comments and the questions. We have sent those comments and questions over to Terracon Consultant, who actually prepared the cultural report. They have responded to the comments and the questions. But in addition, we went ahead, since they were pretty good comments and questions, and asked Terracon to take those areas and go ahead and amend their cultural study. So with that, by probably the end of this week, we're going to be issuing the letter from Terracon that responds to the comments and questions, but are also going to issue an amended cultural resource assessment survey. And that report's going to be dated April 2022. And so we've taken what the committee and has come back with. We've amended the report. We've responded to the questions and the comments. So we'll have a report that basically still has the same summary and conclusion report, but it's added some more content to it. Are there any questions on that approach?
There is a raised hand from
Yes,
Sharon.
Ms. Williams.
Oh, I didn't have my hand raised, but maybe you were reading my mind, Madam Chair. I was thinking the report is going to be dated April 2022, but I imagine it has to go through compliance and various reviews. So when is it reasonable to expect that report would be available to the committee and to the public?
Yeah, if I could just jump in on that one. So we actually, I actually received it on, frankly, on yesterday. I began the review on today. The changes in it are not that significant that we believe it's going to take long. And so therefore we believe that no later than Friday, it will go out to the committee and then be available public.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Williams. Was there any other questions there? All right, Mr. Williams, did you have more on that portion?
No, that concludes the cultural study.
Perfect.
The next item is the acoustical study. We have started the ambient sound monitoring phase. And I'd like to thank Amy Taylor and Allison Clark for helping us coordinate the locations. There's a couple of pictures there. We have taken 5 of these monitors and put them throughout the community. With our engineers' input, we have hired an excellent acoustic engineer who's a retired professor from the University of Florida. His name is Gary Seibin, and he actually taught all the master classes in acoustic engineering. So we just picked up these 5 monitoring monitors today, and they will go back and be loaded into their model and software, and we'll be starting that process. It'll take several months to build their model, and they'll start adding to it, as they need to. So that's the start of the acoustical study.
Hey, Alan, I think it'd be beneficial. Can you just remind everybody, once we have that completed report, what that report will actually show or detail?
Ooh, that's a tough one, Marshall.
Yeah, it's okay. I can take it. So essentially, what they've done is they've put these acoustical things around to, again, capture noise levels. So then therefore they're creating a diagram that will essentially show based on distance from, again, the firing range, from the evac course, from things that make noise out at the site, what level in which you will hear that at what neighborhood or what house or wherever it would be, again, in relationship to the location. Did I frame that right, Alan?
Oh, yeah, perfect. I thought you were saying, wanting to know what they would do going forward, but
No.
No, the picture on the left, I'll tell you exactly what we did. We had 5 monitors, and they took their model, and the sound engineer, and said, we need to place them in these following areas. And like I said, with Amy Taylor and Allison helping us with the neighborhood, the picture on the left there where the fence is, that's right there by the Metro Center, and that's right adjacent to where the new firing range will be. I think the one on the right may be up behind the fire station on the west side. So they strategically placed 5 of these monitors, and so that's where they're at. And they came in, I think it was 7 days, Allison, and they collected all the data, taking it back and go load it into this model.
Wonderful. We can't wait to see how this turns out and what the impact will be in terms of, the noise on our communities. I think that's been a pretty large concern for those of us living right around the development. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Madam
And
Chair,
then,
I believe there's a question from Ms. Phillips.
Thank you. Ellen, how long will the acoustics monitors stay in place after the operation has begun? Because what you're monitoring now, of course, is a basic silence, since nothing is going on there. Will those monitors stay in place for at least 6-7 months after operations have begun, so that you can get an actual feel for exactly how noisy it is on the communities?
let me get back to you on that. The monitors we just put in place were in place for 7 days. So we put them in last Tuesday, and we just picked them back up today. And that will be the ambient sound. And there's a lot of science that goes into this. And so, like I said, they're going to spend several months putting this information into a model. And it's just not the sound that they also have the terrain, the topo. And I'll come back and maybe clarify what they're going to be doing in the next several months.
Okay.
So it's a long process,
Okay.
and there will be a measurement all the way through. So at the end of the day, you can show what it was and how much better it is now. Will be at the end.
Hey, Alan, I know Tony Kinney's on the call. Tony, if you can.
Yeah, I can just add a little bit of information, since Alan and I have been involved with them since the beginning. Then we've been talking about the sound study. So as Alan said, the 5 sound meters that we're in are, they're technically considered long-term meters because they're out for a full week. They're not out for the entire length of construction, but they're out to measure the ambient sound on the entire site. So they pick up things for 24 hours a day. And I mean, the measurements are like every second it takes a measurement of what the sound level is. And people may think that like the sound in their yard, there is no sound. But once there's a baseline ambient sound level taken, there actually is a graph, and they can model it for the whole site. From there, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking kind of worst case sound levels, and we'll be doing that at 16 different points around the site. They'll be at 1/4 mile, 1/2 mile, 1 mile, and 2 mile radii from the point that we're doing anything on the site, like the EVOC course and the range. And what that will report back, they'll actually have meters that will go to those places while they're doing something on the site. And that will actually report a sound that is at that level. and reports what the decibel level is off the site. And that's how we'll be doing the sound testing to really know what our facility will be creating after we put things on the particular parts of the site.
Thank you for that, Tony.
Thank you, Tom.
I think from here we can move forward with the preservation piece.
Yeah, preservation, like we previously stated, we've been working closely with David Mitchell, who is the executive director of the Atlanta Preservation Center. David has visited the site multiple times, and he's also been working and reviewing the Terracon cultural study. David's primary focus now is going to be on the 2 stone structures that are located on Key Road. And they've just started that process. And we do have a little bit of, I think, exciting news. David Mitchell, Atlanta Preservation Center, Atlanta Police Foundation, we've started working with a professor over at Georgia Tech. She's teaching a master class in architecture, and they're going to start studying those 2 structures. And that process has just started.
Okay.
Great information. Thank you very much. With that, I will open up the floor to any questions from committee. Please either raise your hand or announce yourself when you take the floor.
This is Lily. So in terms of the structures that are going to be preserved, is it only those 2 that you mentioned that are on the Key Road entrance? Are all the other structures, historical structures, going to be demolished?
Just the 2 stone structures.
So everything else is going to go?
Yes.
Thank you, Lily. Are there any additional questions? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. So with that, I will push forward. Mr. Freeman, the floor is yours to discuss community impact. And thank you very much, Mr. Williams, for your presentation tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on the community impact, one of the big things that we spoke a little bit about at the start of this conversation with the group was around us doing some sort of partnership with the neighboring schools in DeKalb and the city of Atlanta, grade schools, middle schools, and high schools. And so what we'd like to do is lean on a couple of the committee members to also add some support in that area as we start to have a couple of those conversations. And so following this email, we'd like to kind of do just a quick, if you will, selection of a couple of committee members who are passionate about, again, the work that continues to happen in the community, especially on a grade school level. So maybe you have some youth of your own that is in one of the schools, neighboring schools, and you have a relationship with principals and some of the folks that are in those areas and some of the recreation areas that can help us to put some framework around what that partnership looks like. But we'd like to go ahead and begin to advance that conversation and have something definitive that we can bring back to this group at a subsequent meeting.
Thank you for that, Mr. Freeman. You know, that is a passion project of mine, working with the local schools and building on what the future of DeKalb can look like. I am certainly interested. If there are any other committee members interested, please email me, email Mr. Freeman, so we can get this small committee put together so that we can begin that work.
And again, do you have a time frame, to get those volunteers? Is this by, the end of this week, by next Friday? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think if we could have them identified by next Friday, again at the latest, then that would give us a good time frame to again kind of get rolling. My thought is that we look to advance those conversations. I think it's good timing because school is getting ready to go on recess for the summer, so it may again allow us to have a little bit more attention and focus from some of the administration staff in order to move those conversations forward.
I will say, if we can, I'd really like to shrink that timeline down because our next meeting is May 17th, which is really only 3 weeks from today's date. Normally we have a full month between. And so perhaps if agreeable, maybe we get that committee set up by Monday, the 2nd. That way the work can go with engaging the schools.
Okay, that works.
Yeah,
And Madam
Allison?
Chair, are you open to people in our community? So even if it's us, let's say if I got on my Facebook site, says, is anybody interested in doing this? Is that acceptable or is it only committee members?
I think the first thing we need to do is establish the committee members that will be working on the project. And then once that is set up, we can reach out broader so that they know exactly where to bring that information back to so we can get the work done.
Excuse me, Allison. This is Sean Billingsley.
Hi, Sean.
Hey, yes, I talked to Commissioner Johnson yesterday. He was in our neighborhood, about the same issue yesterday, about things within the schools and like what we're doing, what's going to be going on with McNair. So I'll be interested in doing something like that because with them turning McNair into a vocational school and everything like that. So he gave myself and a few of my neighbors a great insight of what we can do with what's going on with the center, what the city is building and what Blackhall is doing. So I would definitely be interested with this also.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Sean.
And
With that,
Madam
if
Chair,
anyone
I'd
else
ask
is-
I'd ask if there's anybody else who would like to serve on that committee, then maybe again, to your point, maybe by Monday, if someone could, send a note either over to me or over to you and just make it be known. And then that way we can get a notification regarding a meeting.
That sounds good. So mark your calendars. I'll also send this out following the meeting, but mark your calendars for May 2nd as the follow-up deadline on this if you are interested in participating. And one other quick mention that I will make, I did not make mention of this, and actually we can just kind of segue into the next piece. Thank you, Marshall. Under our general discussion, I want to make mention that the MailChimp field, again, is on the Atlanta Training Center website so that members of the community leaders, et cetera, can sign up to receive information about what this stakeholder group is doing. One of the pieces that I mentioned was the surveys that we will be conducting. And what I will ask from each committee member is that you put together 3 questions that you would like to ask of community or that you think would be appropriate to ask of community in these surveys that will help benefit us and our work in the coming months. And so, think multiple choice. There are so many different options in terms of how we can put the survey together. But if you would, when you put your question together, please put together your suggested answer choices as well. Send those over so that we can start building out that survey and have that to present to you all ahead of the next meeting. Accordingly, I will ask again if you will set that May 5th deadline, which is next week, Thursday. And I keep landing on that because it is the midway point between now and our next meeting. So again, May 5th, if each committee member will send 3 questions over to me to be included in the survey. It does not mean that all of our questions will be in the initial survey, but it gives us a pool of questions to pull from and information from each one of you on perspectives that you think are important. With that, I will open the floor to general discussion. If anybody has anything that they would like to share with committee or any information that we need to cover that we didn't cover today.
I have a question for Marshall.
Sure, Ms. Phillips.
That 125 acres that is not a part of this project, how much of that is going to be fenced in for safety? Or do you have any idea?
I don't have any idea yet. So that area, again, still belongs to the city of Atlanta. And so there will be a conversation at some point soon regarding what happens with that 125 acres, who actually, again, maintains it, who takes it, how open is it, does Parks and Recreation take it over? Is there some sort of agreement regarding the servicing of that area? So that still has to be established. Unfortunately, under our scope, we're only dealing with, again, that 85 acres in that training space at this point, and the rest of that still belongs 100% to the city of Atlanta, and they have not given that over to the Police Foundation or expressed the interest to do that. So I believe, again, there will be some sort of conversation with the city of Atlanta on how they maintain that.
Okay, I asked because we're talking about working with the schools now, and you know how kids can be very rambunctious. So I was hoping that particularly that area where that drop off is, what is 100 feet over in that area, if nothing else, all of that was fenced in. So there's no possibility of kids, you know, going into that. But
Yeah, and I do think there's going to have to be an active plan as far as a safety plan, 100%. So I'm right there with you, that I do know those conversations will have to be had. And I do think, and that's a really good comment for us also to park. And I wrote it down, and that'll be a good conversation for when we have the City of Atlanta new person to join this committee. That's why I also think it's really important to have that person on this committee, so they'll be able to speak to, from the city's position, things like that, that again are a little bit out of my purview.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anne, for that question, and Mr. Freeman for your response. I would like to piggyback off of that, and I probably should have asked a portion of this while we still had Bob Hughes on the line, but to the degree that it is answerable, Bob mentioned the potential for having to fence off a portion of the 85 acres that is part of this development. Is that all a result of sort of bad actors at the site as it stands, or is that part of the consideration in general for safety?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I don't think there is a current desire or want to fence it off. I think what Bob is raising is frankly, and Chief Shearbaum can probably speak to this, is just raising again some of the conversations that have been had after the involvement of, you know, again, other federal partners and state partners when we talk about the security aspect of the site. And so again, I think what Bob's intent by making the comments that he made was 100% to again, I think we all are hopefully in a place where we can I don't know, disparage people from, you know, again, committing the acts of violence in which they commit. I think there is a way, frankly, in which there's a manner in which you peacefully protest. There's a manner in which you voice opposition. And I think that happened at the city council level already. And the Atlanta City Council has obviously made the decision that they have made. So at this point, now I think our charge and what we're all looking to do is build this in a way where it's seen as a positive for the community. And I think that's the charge in which we have going forward. But anything that, again, is outside of that, you know, destroys vehicles or equipment or intimidates people or scares people or anything like that, from my perspective, is unacceptable. And I would hope that the folks on this committee would also, again, take that same position when we speak to the community about their position regarding the facility.
yes, I certainly agree.
I completely agree, and thank you for that. That's, you know, something that I think stays in the back of our minds as we see some of what's happening, and we don't want to see that, you know, hitting any committee members or anything of the sort, you know, as we continue to move through this. So hopefully, you know, people are moving through the appropriate channels. But I was certainly curious to know about how that fence scenario has come into play, and hopefully it stays away from my perspective.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
So
this
I
is
agree.
Sharon.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anne was speaking, or somebody was speaking.
No, I was just Patricia Culp, and I said I agree with what Marshall is saying, and hopefully we can agree to disagree and move forward.
Yeah, so Patricia, I just agree all around. And I guess the only thing I would ask is that, you know, when there are acts of either eco-terrorism or property damage, that it's brought to the attention of the committee. Because I think we don't want anyone to get hurt as a result of this. And we really want this to be a collaborative effort. That's the spirit in which we're operating. And I didn't even connect the 85 acres, you know, fencing part of that off. I did not connect it to the acts of eco-terrorism. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you.
And Chief Shearbaum, can you maybe speak a little bit about, again, about our ability to do some sort of I don't know, not necessarily a full intel briefing, but some sort of notification to this body?
Certainly, we will get with our public affairs unit and our Homeland Security team on a means to communicate any arrests that may occur. I can tell you at this point, we've arrested 12 individuals on site for acts of criminal trespass and damage to property. The other acts that have occurred aren't occurring in the immediate vicinity of the Public Safety Training Center. They're occurring elsewhere in Fulton County and in Gwinnett County, and that's why we brought the GBI and the FBI on board with us. So if we do make future arrests on the site, we'll make sure we communicate that. If there's any actions we're going to be taking that would go beyond normal patrol or enforcement action on the site, we'll certainly communicate that. So, Madam Chair, we can use you as the conduit to inform the wider body that's here. And I just want to reemphasize this. When you look at the first renderings of the Public Safety Training Center that was presented when this body was formed, and you look at it now, there's a stark difference and improvement, if you will, as we take community input and see the green space design, the entrance, and just for the community's input and to work to be delayed or deferred because of actions of very few is why you see the growing commitment of Chief Bryant and the public and the law enforcement community to be very proactive and to address that quickly so it doesn't get to that realm. The public safety members of Atlanta and the region are depending on the center. We're already making plans to better our capabilities and responses, knowing when the site will come online and making sure we're preparing for that. And so anything that we can communicate so this body is informed, we will do that to make sure you're aware and not caught off guard. But we are committed to ensure that all of our resources, those of DeKalb County and of the GBI and the FBI, are here working with you and alongside you, and then keeping you informed. We're not aware of any efforts targeted to this body, but if anyone is concerned, believes they have been, reach out to me immediately on that so we're aware and we can factor that into our response.
Chief, thank you. Again, I did not know that there are 12 people that have been arrested thus far for acts of destruction on the site. So just to thank you and your colleagues for keeping the site safe. Appreciate it. And I know Jacqueline has her hand up.
Thank you very much. Ms. Rainey, the floor is yours.
In reference to what you were talking about, are the people against the site as it's being developed, or are they against the police and the firemen, or what is it exactly? I mean, do they not want more firemen and more policemen in the city, in the DeKalb and in Atlanta, or are they just totally against any kind of improvement on that site?
Ma'am, I can't speak to the motivations of each of those individuals that have been arrested. There are those that, because it is connected to law enforcement, the assistant fire chief is not online. They're not anyone targeting the fire department, but they are certainly targeting what appears to be law enforcement. Regardless of your motivation, and we will be the first agency to protect anyone's First Amendment right to protest, and we will continue to do so. But any criminal acts on the property will be addressed. That is not protest, that is criminal acts. And so far they have been confined to trespass and to vandalism and intimidation. And those are the arrests that have been made. But it appears to be for those that have revealed their motivation, it appears to be in opposition to law enforcement, and then some concerns around green space maintenance, which we believe the work of this body and the reports here have adequately addressed that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question and the response. And, you know, just from my position, I hope to see the members of this committee continuing to do the good work that you're doing. You know, at the end of the day, the reason that we exist is to make sure that the impacted communities and residents have a voice as this process moves forward. And I think we've done quite a good job of that to date, and we're going to continue that work. And at the end of the day, even those who are in opposition to the development or any portion thereof, hopefully their energies and attentions are not focused on this committee, because that is not the right channel to move through. And so that, and then of course, protecting the site is a huge operation. Thank you to Assistant Chief Scherbaum. Mr. Freeman, all of the efforts that you all have put into making sure that the site is secure and that the neighboring communities are secure.
Yes, thank you.
With that, are there any additional questions?
Yeah, this is Lily. I just had a schedule question because I saw somewhere online that there was a plan to begin taking down trees next week on the 3rd. But then earlier in this meeting, Marshall mentioned that the groundbreaking date was not set yet. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that right. Is the groundbreaking after grazing is completed and that's why that's further out, or is there not actually something starting next week?
There is a plan to have what I mentioned was a groundbreaking ceremony, which is different than us actually, again, continuing to work on the site. What I will say about the timeline is that the timeline continues to evolve by the day. And so I have seen reports online about, I guess, people understanding dates, and that's also news to me because I didn't have those dates. But again, we will continue to ultimately do the work. I will say, again, to be 100% frank, so that this committee is aware, in the event when we do have a solid timeline for the work that will happen at the site, it will not be published to this group, again, for the protection of the folks that are actually doing the work out at the site. And so, again, that's an unfortunate thing because when we talk about transparency, as you all know, that's one of the things that since day one, I've been trying to give everybody as much information as I could, but I do think I have a responsibility to protect the people that are out there actually doing the work as these calls continue to be public. And so if you have any questions a little bit more specific than that, if anybody has, then feel free to reach out to me offline.
Thank you for that. And thank you for your question, Ms. Ponitz. Are there any additional questions?
Just a comment, Madam Chair. I'd just like to thank Mr. Marshall for his transparency, because you're saying we may have the dates, but we're not going to tell you, but here's why. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agreed, I'll second that. Well, ladies and gents, if I don't, oh,
sorry,
I'm sorry.
I have one more question.
Is this Lily?
Yeah, this is Lily.
Okay.
So I guess related to like final construction documents and the stormwater plan information that I had requested a couple months ago. I heard Bob mention today they increased the size of a stormwater pond. Can we get the stormwater manual tool summary so that we understand that they are checking the requirements of the Georgia Stormwater Manual? If it seems like that information is probably available at this point, can we just get a presentation on that next week so we understand, or next meeting if it's available?
Okay. Jennifer, I know Jennifer on the call. So Jennifer, if you could just please make that note and then we can have that discussion with Bob for the next meeting.
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you.
And I think Tony Kinney had one more item.
I just wanted to be sure that we are clear. I think it was Lily asked a question about structures that we'll be tearing down. And I just wanted to, just for clarity, say that these are the structures that we're talking about west of the easement. So we're not talking about the prison farm structures or any structures over there. We are talking about the two stone structures adjacent to the road on Key Road. So just wanted to be clear on that because I got a little confused and just wanted to make sure that we were all clear on that.
Thank you for that. Are there any additional questions from the committee?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to say again, thank you, everybody. I appreciate everybody's time. I know that, again, these meetings are never easy, and it's probably not the highlight of everybody's month, and I recognize that. But I appreciate everybody's commitment to, again, helping us through this process and getting it done. And you guys, again, have been phenomenal to work with, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for that. And with that, I think we can return, excuse me, the thank you right back to those of you who have taken the time to answer all of our questions and to do so thoroughly and transparently. We appreciate that, and we know that the questions will continue to come, and as we move through this, it helps with us making our decisions and being able to advise on what we think is best for the community. So thank you to that team as well for all of the work that you are doing, and thank you to each and every one of you who serve on this committee. Again, like Marshall said, you're giving up time in your evening and time between meetings that people don't see to make sure that all of this comes together. So thank you. And thank you to those of you who take the time to sit in and listen in on these meetings. It's important that members of the community, media, et cetera, have an idea of what's going on. So thank you all. And if there are no additional questions, I will call this meeting adjourned. We are at 6:56 p.m.
Right.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you all.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Very good. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.